Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome. Well, actually, it's afternoon. Welcome to another conversation with my eldest son regarding the impact of incarceration um, that we've been discussing for a while now. And today we're going to talk about the Spirit of God that is inside of us. We were having a conversation previously about how people seem to always be looking outside of themselves for this great spiritual experience and forgetting the God that is inside of us. So we want to talk about that today. Welcome back to the Let's Talk Destiny, a Mother's Cry platform, number one. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this God inside of us. But before we do, I want to say um, publicly that I am extremely proud of you and the work that you're doing, your journey to now, and the redemption that has taken place. I'm very proud of that. I also want to, every chance we get, let people know that we are um, validating our brothers, our sons, our fathers, our husbands, what have you, that are behind the prison walls. And we have signed up several of them to get memberships with the NAACP because we want them to also understand that their voice matters. And you are helping to make that happen. So I want to publicly thank you for what you're doing to help me help other people as well.
I'm just a bitch standing behind the giant.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's get into our conversation before we run out of time. What is it that you wanted to share with us about the Spirit of God that is inside of us?
Well, mainly is to remove the false notion that you have to look in the sky or in the clouds for some great experience or to reach what we can temporarily call God. And the problem is it removes the creator given power that each one of us were created with.
Right.
Look outside of yourself. You are literally unplugging yourself from the power source, which is within, when you look outside of self. And so many people, this is why we feel we need mediators, we feel we need some quote unquote holy person to speak to God before us. When if we search the true historical scriptures or the true historical figures that have always taught how to reach the Creator, it has always been taught that man, and when I say man, I'm not speaking about man as in the gender, I'm speaking about the species,
Right.
because that's another thing. We know that really it's the womb man or woman that should be looked at with the highest esteem and first, because it is actually the womb man that can only create man or woman anyway. But that's a whole nother degree of understanding the spirit of God that is within.
Right.
And we have been detached from that due to religious traditions that have been passed down, quite frankly, from people who were more concerned with controlling people than they were teaching people how to truly find the power of the Creator. So it's really of utmost importance as we come into an age where people are starting to awaken and look for new and higher sides of themselves. It's literally not possible to reach unless you understand the Creator is within. So when we see even the stories of creation where it says He breathed the Spirit of God into the body, that breath, that ruach, that Holy Spirit. Again, it didn't say that He blew it in the air and you would have to look for it in the sky.
All right, now.
Blew it within the body.
Yes.
So His Spirit, His holy breath, His holy ghost that again we seek and we say He caught or it fell on. In all actuality, it is already dwelling within. We just have to wait.
That's powerful. That's powerful. I love that. And so insightful. So many people spend way too much of their life journey looking for something that they already have because they have been indoctrinated and programmed to pursue God or pursue the Spirit of God in such regulated and man-made ways. But if we continue to do that, we continue to find ourselves frustrated, overwhelmed, disappointed, always feeling like we're coming up short. Many of the people that I talk to that grew up in church, such as myself, one of the recurring comments that I hear is, I never could be all that God wanted me to be based on what I was taught. I always was feeling like I needed to do more. I needed to say more. I needed to be more. And so that's all that time that was wasted when you could have been walking in your divine purpose, exhibiting and sharing the God that's already within you. So that is a very, very important conversation to be had. I was thinking as you were talking also, and I always want our conversations to include the impact of incarceration on families, because that's what we are talking about, and that's what we're going to be about, and what we're going to write books about in the future, and have workshops about in the future as well. When you look around and you interact with a lot of the guys that are behind the wall with you, I think about the services that you conduct and the classes that you teach and the organization that you started from behind the wall. I see you doing more work than a lot of people who are not physically incarcerated, but mentally they are incarcerated. So my question to you is, as you interact with these guys and speaking to them or sometimes just observe them, do you think that one of the reasons that a lot of them are in the situation they're in is because they do not understand that God is inside of them, and the decisions that they made to bring them to the place where they are now are exhibits of the fact that they did not recognize that they had God inside of them?
Absolutely. Anytime people, what we call, in the vernacular here, we like to say higher self, lower self. And anytime we're acting out in our lower self, this is what's considered to be the flesh, beast, Satan. Um, it's always because God is not recognized. So again, when things are not taught properly, what you create is quite frankly a bunch of zombies running around with just speak words. But again, when it comes to real life, actual application or wisdom of it, then we find a bunch of lost souls.
Right.
And so the brothers that tell you quit. Like, this is why so many people don't even want to attend the church. And then the people that you do see attending church or any religious service is, they're going and they are mostly head in the clouds, acting like they don't really see the real life struggles that's going on.
Right.
People need real teaching that is going to show them how they had the power within the change. And so it's absolutely a fact that because people are not showed the God of the faith, and again, many times right there in our faith, but we are allowing false prophets to teach us or tell us what something means. And I like to define false prophets as people who have knowledge but don't have the wisdom to use.
Wow. That's powerful.
So we see clearly, I believe it's in the book of Romans. You probably would remember the chapter better than me, but it clearly says, know ye not that you are the temple of God and the Spirit of God lives within you.
Yes.
So why is that verse not being pointed out, not being taught in order to empower to who and what we truly are, which is literally nothing but the Spirit of God. So absolutely, brothers will tell you quick, like people need real teachers, real life things, and it's time for spirituality and less religious tradition. Because does it not also say in the book, Queen, that Jesus himself got on the so-called spiritual leaders or religious leaders at that time, quoting the prophet Isaiah about people following the traditions of men, but
Right.
their hearts are not truly attached to God.
Absolutely. 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 And we see that so much in the human experience. Like I was thinking as you were speaking, even from childhood, a lot of times we see our children maybe acting different than other children, speaking differently, uh, perceiving things differently. And instead of watching and learning and trying to find out what they're created to do, what their special gifts are, uh, so that we can guide them to be sensitive to the Spirit of God in them, we automatically start putting them in boxes. And we automatically saying, no, you don't do that. That's not acceptable. That's not how we do it. That's not how it's done. Society won't accept you that way. The church won't accept that kind of behavior. And so we're programmed from early age not to listen to the spirit inside of us as much as we are to listen to people outside of our spirit, outside of ourselves. And so it takes too often it takes a major back against the wall or pitfall or something tragic to happen to people before they really start paying attention to their spirit. And so one of the reasons we wanted to have this conversation is to let people know that, you know, at whatever age you are now, today, once you hear this conversation, you need to really start understanding how to recognize the Spirit of God inside of you and not allow other people to dictate to you how God speaks to you. And if you know that you have the Spirit of God in you, because I say this to people sometimes that I talk to about you and what you're doing at this part of your life, and I say that you are freer in your mind and in your spirit now than you've ever been, and you're freer and more liberated than some people who are able to walk out the door whenever they get ready, get in their car and drive to the store, do whatever. They're not in a concrete plantation where they're controlled by somebody every second of the day. But there's a freedom that comes with knowing the Spirit of God inside of you and activating that spirit and walking in that spirit. And that's what I see happening for you.
And it's even a big part of that is when it comes down to where I was able to recognize what God is. There's another detachment that is happening when we even speak about God. To understand that we are literally created. If we say that we are created by the Creator, created by God, then to understand how that breaks down to the smallest atom of our body, then we have to understand if we are creations of God, then literally down to that smallest atom, we are parts and pieces of God.
Yeah.
All the way down to the literal breath, all the way down, like science now knows that when we had thought, it's literally sending out radio waves and radiation. This is how radio transmitters are even being done. It's the same process that we hear a radio station through an antenna. This is the same energy we send out with our thoughts. All of that is what we would call God. So when we understand that we are literally surrounded by God and we are literally part of God, there's no way that I could look outside of myself for something when I know that I'm literally made up of the God that created all things.
All right now.
That in and of itself is the liberation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where we are. That's where we are on our journey, is walking out our liberation and helping other people to be liberated. That is the call and the assignment that we have at this point on our journey, and we're getting it done using whatever tools we have at our disposal and becoming a voice for people who are not able to speak. All of that is a part of the liberation that we're doing. and I'm honored to be doing that with you.
Amen.
So, our next conversation in our series, I want to talk about, which kind of goes along with this, but I think we may be coming up short on time. I'm not sure. I want to talk about why churches are not doing the marketplace ministry inside prisons that they used to do. When I was younger, your grandparents had what they call prison ministry. And I think it was weekly we would go into a local jail detention center and have services and minister to people. I don't really see people doing that a lot lately. I remember a few weeks ago, I mentioned that on my social media uh, formats, and I think I got maybe two. I asked the question, who knew of any churches in the area that were doing prison ministry, and I think I got maybe two names of people that are doing prison ministry, which is really pathetic. So we're going to talk about that, later on in our conversation. But again, thank you so much for joining me today. And we're going to keep doing what we're doing as long as we can do it.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Any last words you want to say?
Yeah, just everybody just keep encouraged. We got life. God gave us life to live, not survive. He dictated to what we're supposed to do. He must find the revelation that God has for us within ourselves.
All right. Talk to you soon, Mishani. All right. So, all right, thank you very much.